I still remember the way the hangar smelled that day. Jet fuel, hot metal, and sweat. Everyone was on edge, the kind of silence where even the ticking of a wall clock feels like a hammer on your nerves. A private jet sat there, broken, stubborn, refusing to start no matter how many engineers poked and prodded. And standing a few feet away was Victor Kane, the billionaire who owned its slick navy suit, polished shoes, expensive watch he kept glancing at every 30 seconds. His face said it all. Impatience and power rolled into one. The engineers had been at it for hours, sweat dripping, muttering under their breath, trying every fix they knew. Nothing worked. That's when a voice came from the doorway, soft, clear, but carrying across the entire hangar. "If you'll let me, I can fix it." Heads whipped around, and there she was, a thin young woman in a worn-out dress, hair tangled by the wind grease, still clinging to her fingers. She looked like she hadn't had a decent meal in weeks. A laugh broke out from one of the engineers. "Are you joking?" he asked, his tone dripping with exhaustion and sarcasm. Another one waved for security. "Get her out." But Victor, without moving a muscle, raised his hand. "Wait." His voice was calm, commanding, the kind that could silence a room full of doubters. "Let her speak." The guards froze and the girl stepped forward. Her eyes weren't on Victor or on the men sneering at her. They were locked on the engine like it was a puzzle only she could hear whispering. "I heard you mention a strange whistle during landing," she said, her voice steady. "And then the engine ran rough before shutdown. May I take a look?" The chief engineer blinked, almost offended. "That's exactly what happened." How could you know that? Victor studied her face for a long moment, then gave a nod. "Give her the gloves." The room rippled with shock. She slipped them on, hands trembling just for a second, and then they didn't. She crouched down, flashlight and hand mirror angled inside. She tapped a clamp, traced a wire, and whispered almost to herself, "There." The clamp's on the wrong groove, letting air leak. And here this wire's insulation is cracked. It rubs, heats up, sends the system the wrong message. Fixing one won't solve it. Both hide each other. The chief engineer's mouth fell open. How did we miss that? She didn't answer. She just worked quick, precise, like the machine was a song she knew by heart. Clamp reset. Wire wrapped. Every move neat, intentional. Finally, she stood, sweat shining on her forehead. "It's done." The test began. The jet engine whined to life, shaky red lights blinking on the panel. Panic rippled. "Shut it down, we'll fry the core," someone yelled. But the girl raised her hand. "Don't. It's only the sensor recalibrating. Give it a second." The silence was suffocating. And then the red light blinked green. The engine smoothed into a perfect, powerful hum. Gasps, curses, disbelief. Hours of failure undone in minutes by a girl in rags. Victor turned his sharp voice low. "What is your name?" She swallowed hard, tears burning but not falling. "Elena. Elena Morris." You could see it on the engineers' faces. Recognition. They'd heard of her before. A prodigy once at the top of an aerospace university, destined for greatness, until tragedy swallowed her life whole. She told her story right there, voice trembling. Her father's betrayal, her mother's despair, both of them gone in a single day. She had collapsed under the weight, thrown away her phone. Her future ended up on the streets. The hangar fell silent, shame heavy in the air. Even the ones who mocked her earlier bowed their heads. And Victor, this man who lived his life in boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, for the first time in years you could see his eyes water. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You didn't just fix my engine," he said. "You reminded me why second chances matter." From that moment, Elena's life flipped. Victor took her with him to New York, gave her dignity back, dressed her in something worthy of her talent. He introduced her to executives who had once rejected her without a second thought. At first, they scoffed. "She looks untested. one woman sneered. Skill in a dusty hangar isn't the same as international standards. Victor's jaw tightened. Judge her not by what she wears, but by what she can do. So they tested her. They threw a digital schematic on the boardroom screen, scrambled it with a failure scenario. The room waited for her to stumble. Instead, Elena leaned in, eyes scanning the data, whispering to herself. Not turbine. Not fuel line. Vibration sensor giving false readings. Calibration error, not real stress. She tapped keys, isolated the problem, fixed it right there in front of them. The screen cleared, warning light gone. Silence hit the room like thunder. Finally, an older woman with silver hair broke it. She's right. Perfectly right. One by one, heads nodded. Even the harshest doubter sighed and muttered, "Let her try." And just like that, Elena was named head of their largest African branch. But success never comes without enemies. The regional director, a man who had ruled that office for years, hated seeing his power handed over to a woman he'd written off as a street beggar. His pride twisted into schemes waiting for her to fail. When a high-profile client's jet rolled in with major trouble, he folded his arms and sneered. Let's see if the miracle girl can handle this. Fear clawed at her, but Elena pushed it down. She circled the aircraft, fingers brushing the metal like it had a pulse only she could feel. After a long silence, she spoke. Not fuel. Faulty bleed valve. It sticks open, starves the compressor. The chief engineer who once mocked her now stepped forward. She's right. With steady hands, Elena led the team, teaching as she repaired. Hours later, the jet roared to life, smooth as silk. The client shook her hand personally, vowing to spread her name everywhere. The staff cheered, but in the corner that director scowled, wounded pride, dark as a storm. Elena, though, was no longer alone. Victor's son, Daniel, had returned from abroad. Where she carried fire, he carried calm. Where she doubted, he believed. Slowly, quietly, their connection grew. Late nights in the office dinners, where laughter finally replaced pain, stolen moments on balconies, where the city lights shimmered below. One evening, Daniel knelt, heart-pounding diamond ring catching the glow. You fixed more than an engine, he told her. You fixed me. Marry me. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered yes. Months later, Elena walked down the aisle, no longer in rags, but in a gown that shimmered like hope itself. Victor took her arm, his voice breaking. Once you were a girl no one believed in. Today, you are my daughter. The cathedral erupted in applause as she spoke, her vows, voice strong. I lost myself once, but one day I dared to say, if you permit, I will fix it. That moment changed everything. No tragedy, no shame, no doubt can bury true potential. The crowd stood clapping, crying. And when Elena later cradled her newborn son, surrounded by a family she thought she'd never have, Victor whispered, "You were the answer I never saw coming. My life is complete." But you know, not everyone saw it as a fairy tale. Some said Victor gave too much trust to a stranger. Others whispered that Elena didn't earn it, that she was just lucky in the right place at the right time. And back in Lagos, that bitter director still wasn't done plotting in silence, waiting for her first stumble. So let me ask you, was Elena's rise proof that second chances can change the world? Or was it reckless faith in someone who hadn't truly paid her dues? Have you ever seen someone underestimated, laughed at, only to rise higher than anyone imagined? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, and if this story hit you, like it hit me, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe, because we've got more stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew.